Hi, this is Calandra. In this video, we'll cover solving quadratic equations using the square root property. A quadratic equation is any equation that can be written in the form some number a times x squared plus another number b times x plus some number c equal to 0. So the key is that your highest exponent is 2, and you're just dealing with an x squared and possibly an x. There are three ways that we can solve a quadratic equation. We can use the factoring method, which you've seen if you watched the zero product property video, the square root property, which we're going to go over now, the quadratic formula, or there's actually 4 ways. Another way is completing the square. We're not going over that today, but we want our list to be complete. Completing the square gives us a way to solve using the square root property, which you're going to learn right now. So the square root property says if x squared is equal to some value a, then x is equal to, and we have two solutions, a positive and a negative of the square root of a. Okay, so let's look at an example of this that will illustrate this property. So let's say that we had x squared is equal to 4. So this expression is saying when I square some number, the result is 4. Well, what number can we square that's going to give us 4? Well, we know that 2 would work out, but also if we square negative 2, it becomes positive, so negative 2 is also a solution. So the way that we actually solve an equation like this is we take the positive and the negative of the square root of our quantity, and this gives us plus or minus 2, which we were able to reason and come up with. Okay, so this is what we want to use for the following examples. Find all complex solutions to the following equations. So first we have x squared minus 5 is equal to 6. I can't use the square root property yet because I have to have a squared quantity on one side of the equation. So my first step is going to be to add 5 to both sides. So I end up with x squared equals 11. Now I am ready to apply the square root property to get x by itself. And this property tells me I'll have plus or minus the square root of everything on the other side of the equation, which in this case is 11. We can't simplify the square root of 11, so that would be our final answer. For part B, notice that on the left we do have a quantity that's squared, so we can apply the square root property. It tells me that I'm going to get rid of the square on the left, so I'll just have x minus 2, and that will equal plus or minus the square root of the right side, which is 9. So we have x minus 2 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 9 is just 3. So we're almost done. I need x by itself, so I need to add 2 to both sides. So I'm going to put the 2 in front of my plus or minus. So we have 2 plus or minus 3, and this is just representing two answers. We have 2 plus 3, which is equal to 5, and we have 2 minus 3, which is equal to negative 1. And those are our solutions for that equation. For part C, first thing we need to do is get the squared part by itself. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides to get x minus 1 quantity squared equal to negative 4. Now that my squared part is by itself, I can take the square root of both sides. So I'll have x minus 1 is equal to plus or minus the square root of negative 4. So going back a couple of concepts, we can simplify the square root of negative 4. Since we have a negative under the square root, I know I'm dealing with an I, and the square root of 4 is equal to 2. So that quantity is equal to 2i. So my last step would be to add 1 to both sides to get x equals 1 plus or minus 2i. And that would be our final answer.